Someone please answer me. What challenge have we as a people been able to resolve effectively without using laws, rules and regulations that we create through a legislation to create systems that will help us achieve these goals or resolve these problems or challenges effectively? This is why even the dangerous and selfish side of the individual, since it was observed that it has become a threat to common good, our forefathers and we currently have agreed and engaged laws, rules, regulations and systems to discourage the individual from being selfish and corrupt, but remain selfless. This is because it is the most practical approach. So if at any point in time these systems that we have crafted by laws begin to fail, we must understand that it is not that we abandon this approach and begin to look for other means, but to use the same laws, rules and regulations by amendment, alterations or include more clauses to fortify these institutions or systems, not just to pray, complain and protest without knowing exactly what section or clause of the constitution that must be changed. I tell you that this is the only practical approach to end corruption. My name is Sheena David and I welcome you to the science of corruption. This class is so important that you must attend if you really wish to resolve the challenge of bad governance and corruption. Okay? And by the grace of God, I understand so far exactly what we must do or what must be changed in our system to curtail the menace of corruption and bad governance. So, to resolve the issue of underdevelopment, we question the root causes and we find out that corruption is the leading cause. Then we question why there is corruption. We find out that corruption occurs as a result of the selfish nature of the individual or lack of punishment. We concluded that since there is nothing positive we can do about remodifying the nature of man or heart through a scientific process, we go ahead to question why there is a situation of lack of punishment or impunity. We find out that this is a fault of who is being given the responsibility to punish crime between the three arms of government, and this, you know that it is the judiciary who are failing to punish crime regardless of the perpetrator. So again, we question, why is the judiciary failing in this regard? We find out that the leading cause is lack of adequate independence or autonomy of the judiciary. We then, as usual, question what is causing this lack of adequate independence or autonomy of the judiciary. So in the last video, we pointed out that there is a bias done to the judiciary in the process of how these officials in the executive, legislature and judiciary get into power. To the executive, the president gets into power by voting. And this is done because of the fact that they should be protected from undue external influence, where a faction sits out there forming the godfather or kingmaker and says, we made you the president. They say vote, so that the people, the general public, will be the ones. If there is a case or discussion of a kingmaker, it should be the general public. Now see what happens to the Senate. They say vote. They are voted into office. And for the executive, immunity is also added to this office to protect them from undue manipulation and influence. Alright? So, when it comes to the judiciary, they are being appointed into power. They are being appointed into power. This is how they get into office of the Chief Justice. This is a necessary bias. Even if you justify that the judiciary do not have to be partisan, which I also agree, but you cannot deny the fact that there is no balance here. The executive have more power, the legislature has more power, and the judiciary has less protection from external manipulations and influence or control. But this imbalance must be compensated, else the idea of these arms being co-equal arms of government will not be realized. It will only remain an idea. Now look at another area when there is a problem. When it comes to the area of finance, there is another bias. I don't know if it is necessary, but the executive have the function to present the budget to the lawmakers. The lawmakers, they scrutinize, make changes, or adjust the budget before approving this budget. Now, the executive go back to ensure that monies are given back to the ministry as approved by the legislature. Again, a question, what is the role of the judiciary in this regard? Now, observe that in the area of impeachment, to impeach the president, a notice of allegation is presented to the National House of Assembly. This notice is also sent to the president and to every individual member of the House. They vote to see if these allegations are worth investigating. If it is so, the Senate President will now request the Chief Justice to set up a panel of 7 people. This is the only role the judiciary plays in the impeachment process of the President. These 7 people is going to appoint, in his opinion, must be people of unquestionable integrity to investigate these allegations. I see 3. This role is too meager. Now, when it is confirmed that it is true that the president is corrupt or found guilty, the House will now decide through a 2/3 vote of the majority of the members to adopt the allegation or the result to impeach the president. You can look this up in section 143. Now observe, to remove a lawmaker, a petition is signed by the constituent and presented to the INEC. INEC confirms if the signatures on the petition are registered or authentic. Then INEC will conduct a referendum in such a constituent. And if a majority are in favor of this petition, INEC will now present a certificate of recall to the House of Assembly to recall the member or dismiss the member from office. You can look this up in section 110. Again, this function is performed only by the INEC and the masses. And the House of Assembly, the lawmakers, they execute these orders. The INEC perform this function. The judiciary, again, is still not in the picture. They have no role to play in the impeachment process of a lawmaker. Alright? Although the executive too are also not in this role. Now, when it comes to impeaching a chief justice of a judicial officer, the NJC presents an allegation to the president. Now, the constitution says the president or the governor acting on address, supported by the 2/3 majority of the Senate or Assembly, goes ahead to impeach the Chief Justice of the Federation. This is a vital role. This is a vital role. The major role here are played by the legislature and the executive in dismissing the Chief Justice. This is another error. So this is another bias and foul play that constitutes an imbalance of powers between the 3 arms of government, which, based on democratic fundamental principles, are supposed to be equal in strength. You understand? So if these were kilos of powers, you will now see. And if I could go forward to identify other areas, you will now understand better. But we can argue to justify why these clauses or this situation or sharing of power is done disproportionately in this manner. But whatever reason you may have to justify this compromise, this error, the fact remains that the judiciary is given lesser power or protection or autonomy, and therefore cannot be expected to be a co-equal arm and have the needed courts or ability or capacity to effectively checkmate the excesses or the abuse of power of the executive or the legislature in regards of punishing crime, regardless of who is the perpetrator. But to compensate or correct this error, we must balance this power, and we must compensate the judiciary in other areas. Like in other countries, the judiciary has life tenure. So when we begin to add these kilos of power, maybe at the end of the day there is 15, 20, there is 20, and the judiciary just has 3. By the time you say life tenure, maybe 3%, and you add something else, maybe 3%, you will get the balance correct. So in my next video, we are going to be discussing what sections amounts to this and how to compensate these errors.